everybody, Josh RV Nerd of Bish's RV here with something a little different and stressing on the little part of a little different. This is the newest member of our Wayfinder family found in our Go Lite series we're calling the Skybreaker because we seem to like these really extreme names for our tiny little campers. This thing right here only weighs just over 2,000 pounds. I think it's about 2,300 pounds empty weight, tip to tail, tongue to bumper, just under 14-foot total length, because the thing is, the bed doesn't occupy floor space on this one. This has what I like to call a pop-out bonus bed in the back. This is kind of just a classic little basic camper where we added a single pop-out bed on the back, but what I can give you is a tiny little footprint box that takes a little bit of no vehicle, like potentially even minivan towable on this thing, or maybe Jeep Wrangler. It's right at the top of like Jeep Wrangler towing that could sleep 1 to 2 to 3, 4, maybe people. 4 is really pushing it, but potentially in the mix, as long as a couple of you know each other potentially biblically. The idea behind this is not to be big, not to be flashy, not to be fancy. Everything on this is simple level. This is grassroots, down-to-earth, bare-bones camping, but we gave it a very tall lift package to keep it up off the ground to give you some really nice ground clearance. With the single pop-out bed in the back, if you want to open that, because nothing says you have to use that bed in the back. You could just use the front sleepers if you want to, but it lets you still kind of hear and connect with nature without necessarily being in a tent and on the ground. It's got some other cool things. It's got some other things that make you go, and you might like it. You might hate it. I don't know. But this one's not going to take us the longest time to go through, and if you appreciate whether it's big or small, we're trying to provide something for everybody out there. Hit that subscribe button, and let me know what you think about this as we go, because this is pretty much the first run prototype right before they go to production, so we're going to be able to put some of your feedback directly into them as soon as possible. So when our footage began, I gave you a very brief and slow wide-angle look at this thing, which I don't like doing, but in a tiny little box like this, I don't know how else I can kind of show you how A to B to C connects. This model, one of its signature calling cards is this pop-out rear bed. And this right here is either going to be a situation where like, yes, this is brilliant, or you're going to be like, wow, no, absolutely not. This is a complete failure in my book. And I'm not going to argue with you on little stuff like that. It just is what it is. The idea, though, is to make this thing as short as possible. We were hoping to make this RV a little bit lighter weight. But one of the things that we found is all of the extra structure that you have to build into the walls to support that pop-out bed, like all of the steel structuring that goes around it. It adds a lot of weight to the camper. And as a result, this ended up basically being the same weight as our Cloudbreaker. This is the Skybreaker. The Cloudbreaker has no pop-out rear bed and a full-time fixed bed on the inside, plus a few other things. So if you're like, yeah, no, this absolutely does not work for me, no problem. Take a look at the Cloudbreaker instead of the Skybreaker, or as I like to call it, Sky Mutilator. It is interesting to me. We did still put some TV hookups in here, and it seems like an odd location, but frankly, this is the only flat chunk of wall space in the RV that is potentially suitable for something like that. When you get to your destination, you also, like this whole gray thing that we're looking at, this is a basically like a zip-up bag to sort of contain the bed in transit so it doesn't go everywhere. Although, with this bathroom wall here, I'm not convinced you really necessarily need it. There is storage below it, but you can get to that storage in a couple other alternative different ways. We're going to come back to the bathroom in a little bit. That's freaking funny, by the way. Let's talk up front here. One of the things that we've really tried to do on our Go Lights is to give multiple people the ability to go camping together in a small RV. There's a lot of people who just don't need something large, who don't want something large, that are just trying to go out and have a good time for a weekend. And sometimes that means you need to get a little bit creative with sleeping solutions. And that's where we just employed the classic fold down upper bunk here. And it doesn't get much more simple or basic than this, but there's a lot of people, that's exactly what they're looking for. Simple and basic, really. I don't see the sticker on this one because, again, it is a pre-production model. if I recall, I believe that this upper bunk has about 150-pound capacity, which is very small, which is only made for a very small person. But because of, the taper of the nose and the roof line, if you notice how tight it is in here, you're not going to be putting anyone large in this space regardless. Frankly, nothing says you have to use it as a bunk. You could absolutely just get rid of this mattress. There's a part of me that sort of wishes this was one of those classic cabinet bunk convertible combos. I sort of feel the same way on our Cloudbreaker model, but you might notice too, over on this side here, there's just some extra pocketed of space. Yeah, okay, you get the idea. To give you a little bit of a size reference, I took this pillow over here and kind of just shoved it into the cavity to show you that, yeah, it's actually a pretty nice duffel bag sized kind of space. Very interesting. Oh, hello. We have some guests today, apparently. Very interesting location for the fire escape window, but then again, the camper is small enough you could probably go right through it. By the way, what is funny is there actually are 2 sets of TV hookups in there. I'll be shocked if 1 out of 100 people who buy this camper put a single TV into it. This is standardized with a side mount air conditioner. That is for a couple reasons. Part of it is for shipping reasons. Part of it is just because this thing is so flippin' small. I don't know that you rightly need anything more than that. You might know, and I'm bumping into the oven sparker. This thing is so small, I'm bumping into everything. This is actually a difficult video for me to make. The quadruple slide fifth wheels are much, much easier. Portable Bluetooth speaker. This thing doesn't really have a built-in radio, but we still wanted you to have some sort of entertainment function, so we included that here. This is a 12-volt compressor fridge. It's a smaller one. It's like, I'm trying to remember, 4.3 cubic foot or something in there. If that's a really critical need-to-know thing, contact our team. We can verify that spec for you. If you are boondock off-gridding, the 100-watt solar panel that's on this will not completely offset the fridge. Not in my estimation, anyway. And I know that someone's like, well, why did you go with this? Because there just is not a good, readily available supply of gas-electric two-way refrigerators that fit this size and this profile over here. It was just basically by necessity because that's what manufacturers build and offer nowadays. Now, in terms of sleeping spaces, here's some dimensions for you. We're going to actually put them right on screen, like we'll say on that wall above this little area right there. And then once again, just above the overhead bunk space in here so that you have a good reference point to be able to catch easily. And once again, the trick in a little camper like this for a big, tall, long, clumsy dude like me is trying to fit the whole thing into the camera frame without using tricky, magical, fly's eyes compound lensing or anything like that. Now you're going to look at this and be like, yeah, it's got like absolutely no counter space. You are correct. It is very limited in that capacity. There have been some folks who have asked why these have such a large sink, which reduces the counter space. I think it's a fair question. So let me ask you, which is more important? A little bit bigger sink or a little bit more counter space? If you are willing to give us that feedback, that might really help us down the line. Now, what we have done here is gone to a 2-burner, what's called north-south stovetop. And some people might not like the fact that it's right next to the dinette. It is what it is, guys. If you don't like that, that's okay. You might be able to put some kind of little plexi arrangement or something here. Perhaps that might be a little modification we could assist you with. What is nice about the 2-burner stovetops is they're dual high output. When you have a 3-burner stovetop, you have high, low, low. And the 2 low-burner stoves basically can't even boil water. Now, what is nice is we do have a full propane furnace down there. Keep in mind, though, with basically a hybrid bed in the back and this having no special insulation package, if it is cold Arctic camping season, well, then I could offer exactly 0 guarantees of, comfort and function. This is not made for extreme weathers. This is, this is definitely a peak primary season kind of camper. And it's not much, but I do appreciate the fact that it has at least 1 drawer for your forks and spoons and knives. Actually, I am surprised, probably because it doesn't have a traditional oven and it has the microwave above the countertop. This has some pretty big, deep cabinet space in there. In case you were wondering, under that big, giant one-piece cover, that is a big old farm sink where you could bathe a baby if need be. Don't know why you need to do that, but, actually, yeah, I do. If you have a baby, you need to bathe it. That would make sense. I don't even My brain wasn't braining for a second there, apparently. Working our way around here. There is just, I mentioned how in front of that bed, there is a little bit of storage. Let me get this out of the way down there. It's nothing too extreme, but in a little camper like this, every little nook and cranny counts, man. Now, I told you, the bathroom's funny. Here's what I mean. First of all, I love the fact that it actually still has a locking bathroom door. That actually is a very nice thing. But if you are Johnny Longlegs and very tall like me, you will appreciate how high up this toilet sits. Now, let me get backed up here just a little bit for you. Take a look over on the left-hand side of the screen. You notice how my legs are really dangling down, and then when the door shuts, my toes stick out from under the door. This bathroom, if it was any smaller, would not work. Now, similarly, back on the left side of the screen, if we take a look at hip, shoulder, elbow room, it is right and tight up on your side. There is not a lot of extra space to do what you got to do. Then again, tiny little box camper. The fact that we managed to actually build a dry bath with a separate toilet and shower into something that is less than 14-foot tip to tail total length is not something that you find every day. So I don't know that I'm going to criticize it too awful hard. Now, it's 6.5 foot from floor to ceiling. Stepping up into the shower there, yeah, my head's absolutely all the way up in the bubble. But again, what else would you expect from a little box like this? The fact is, 2,300 pounds dry, 3,500 pounds max, 14-foot tip to tail, can sleep 3 people pretty easily, maybe 4 on that rear bed if you're really snuggled up to one another. Not a lot of other campers can do that. So you might notice we're starting over here on the driver's side of the camper today. That's because the idiot that parked it put it too close to the campers next door. And that's me. I'm the idiot. I'm the one that parked it. And you would think of all the people who do all these videos who would know how to better stage this up, I would have done a better job of this. But obviously, you'd be incorrect. Anyway, what are we looking at here? Again, the idea behind this is to just check all the basic boxes and get you out camping on a more budget-friendly scenario, potentially using vehicles that just are not capable of handling larger, full-size sort of RVs. If you're looking for something with a little bit smaller capacity, this is what you'd be looking at. Now, this thing is fresh off the apple cart, Mary. So, like, you might notice we don't even have the propane tank slapped onto the tongue yet. You see the regulator just kind of stripped in place. Although, this is kind of a nice point to get to see the fact that one of our golden threads is we want to make sure we include a battery disconnect and some level of solar package on everything. This has it's very basic. It's only a battery tender, but it's a 100-watt solar panel up on the roof. The goal behind this is it's not the kind of camper where you can hide from the government and run the air conditioner while you're sitting out in a farmer's field. This is something where, while it's in storage, the battery will just stay topped off. So when you go out and go camping, the battery will be ready for you. Now, if you want to build up on a solar package, there's not a lot, but there's some roof space. You know, you'd have to kind of DIY some solutions. I also wanted to point out the fact that we do have 4-corner stabilizer jacks. You might notice you can see the couple in the back there. I dropped one in the front corner, one in the back corner. The one in the front corner I dropped just so that you could see we actually do have front stabilizers on these. The one in the back corner I dropped because something I noticed is this camper is so small and so light that without a rear stabilizer jack down, when I was walking in the camper, it felt like the nose was starting to get floaty. And I didn't feel like the trailer popping a wheelie and sending me flying ace deuce, onto the ground in this thing. So it would be a very good idea before hopping in and out, especially before laying in that back bed, to make sure you have one of those rear stabilizer jacks down. Now, like all of our Wayfinder RVs, one of our other golden threads is we like to have that little outdoor propane cooker situation handled on this one. Now, we're down here by the belly. One thing that you won't see is like, you're not going to see like, underbelly enclosures on a Go Lite. You're not going to see holding tank heat pads. This has no Arctic package or anything like that. And I hope you appreciate the fact that I'll shoot you straight on that stuff, because those could be features a person's looking for. And by virtue of the fact that this camper does not have them, that might disqualify you from wanting to purchase this RV. But I'd rather be genuine and straightforward and forthcoming with you so that you know exactly what you're getting and what you're not. One of the things that we really stressed on this little Go Lite series was to give those those Jeep kind of folks something where they could get off the beaten path a little bit. And that's part of the reason we went with the more aggressive tire package here and the... What the... Does that look like a Decepticon? It does. What? What? Why is there a Decepticon logo on the tires? Maybe I don't want to know. Maybe I just stumbled into some government conspiracy I was not supposed to learn about. I'm not sure. Then again, with the pop-out bonus bed on the back, it is kind of like a little bit of a transformer. And again, my apologies for getting this thing parked so that we're right up in its face. That is my fault and no one else's. The rear bed back here, because it has those internal support cables, basically, it's like something like 950 or 1,050 pound rated. It's essentially, unless you're going to load bags of concrete and cinder blocks on that thing, you're not going to overload it. That's not a worry. The roof is walkable. You'll see as we get back over here on the driver's side, there is a bracket that is prepped for a telescopic removable ladder. However, this little RV has virtually no outside storage. In fact, the little compartment under that bonus bed is the only outside storage on this RV. So you are going to want to plan accordingly. Chances are, if you're going to get a ladder for this, you're probably going to want to leave it at home and only leave home with the absolute essentials on this. By the way, you haven't seen a spare tire yet. You see the little bracket on the bumper over there and that loose spare tire? Again, this camper just came in and I jumped right on it with the camera. So like we haven't, basically, these come from the factory with slight assembly required on the outside, the propane and the tire, because the short size of this allows us to ship 4 or 5 of these at a time on a flatbed to some of our Western stores, which essentially cuts literally thousands of dollars of cost out of the RV per copy to most of our locations. And that's one of the other goals that we had behind this. We wanted to make a very affordable, functional, basic little camper for folks. It does have a consolidated sewer outlet, which is great. Sometimes these little Go Lights are so small, we literally can't do that. You might also notice how it does have a galvanized steel wheel well guard up above that belted radial there, and I hope that tire never gives up the ghost, but God forbid it does. You're going to be happy that you have it right there. Is this the old knuckle buster variety? God bless America, it is. Look at that. The reason I call it a knuckle buster power cord, I haven't seen a lot of these in a long time actually, but when you're pulling it out, it doesn't seem too complicated. When you're trying to shove the whole thing back in, if the cable's cold in the morning, you bust your knuckles against the side of the camper trying to get that in there. I will say our southern customers want to be a little bit careful with that because snakes like to find their way in those little cubby holes every now and then. It doesn't seem to be a major problem, but hey, if there's little things I can warn you about, I'd like to let you know. Because again, my goal is to just try to be real about this thing right here and not try to oversell it and underdeliver it. It is what it is, kind of like Popeye's the Sailor Man. You know, I am what I am, and that's all that I am. That's all that this is. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. If you're still following along with me, I think you need to seek psychiatric evaluation. And thanks again for tuning in. As I always do, I'll leave you some links in the video description to double check things like pricing and availability. Whether you're curious or serious, if you want to see how much one of these things is running, let us know. In theory, we have these available at literally every Bish's RV location. We might be sold out at certain times, but we are always working to get more back in the mix for you. I don't know. Is this Go Lite good night or did right? Let us know, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate you tuning in once again. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.